Good morning, scholars. Today we're going to continue our way through Far's Homeric Greek, looking at lines 571 to 583 of Book 1 of the Iliad. This is where Hephaestus makes a collective appeal to the gods to diffuse the situation, giving his mom some particular advice. Tois en de paistos, kluto teknes ark agoreu en. Me tri pile epiwe raperon, lugo lanoi here. E de loigia verga ta desetai, ud et anecta. E des fo henecath neton, eridaneton hode. Inde de oise kolo on e laoneto, ude te daitos estles, esetai vedos, epe ta gere ona nike. Me tridego parape me, kai aute per no euse. Patri biloi, epiwera perende I, hopra me aute, neke se pater. Sun de men daita taraxe. E per ga catele sen, olympios asteropetes, ex hedre on stupelixai, hogar polu datos esten. Ala suton, webe esse, katap destai malakoisen, auti kepeti alos, olympios esetai hemin. So, the toisende, of course, marks that Hephaestus is speaking to all the Olympians, the Uranies of the previous line. Toisen de Hephaestos, kluto teknes erk agoreu en. Hephaestos, of course, is Hephaestus, the god of fire and smelting and of workmanship. Kluto teknes, famed for his art. This is an epithet of his. Then we have erk, imperfect of arco, to begin, to completed by an infinitive. So arke agoreu en. He began speech, he opened debate, but really this isn't a debate so much as just his address. Me tri pile epi pera peron, lugo lenoi here. Meteros, he is mother, and epirera beren is to show oneself well disposed towards, and lugo lenos, we've seen, is white armed, the epithet of Hera. Don't be distracted by the little at the beginning of this line. It's not the speech begins after the semicolon. Ad logia verga ta desetai, ud et anecta. So ada is your affirmative followed by your amplifier of de. Yes, indeed. Ede. Logios is baleful. Vergon is a affair, matter, or task. So in the plural, logia verga, a bad business. We had Zeus using the same expression when he tried to explain to Thetis how fulfilling her request vis-a-vis Achilles was going to just get him in trouble with Hera. So now that we see the spat having arisen between Hera and Zeus, so too Hephaestus refers to it as a logia verga. Esetai, of course, is the future of Amet, to be. Logia verga is thus the predicate adjective, and tade is the subject. Ede logia verga tad esetai. Ud et anekta. Ud et is not at all. Anektos, anekte, anekton. Bearable, to be endured, so not at all to be endured. And this is derived from anekomai, which means to endure, to put up with something patiently. So de logia verga ta desetai, ud et anekta. De spo henekathneton, eridineton hode. So de in conditional protasis renders or gives us the meaning if indeed, if really. He's already expressing his astonishment that this is even happening. Spo is our nominative dual of the second person, and here we can compare spo henekathneton with line 8, tis tars vo eteon, and we see, looking at the chart, that in the first case, de spo, we have the second person of the dual, spo, you two, if you two, whereas in tis tars vo we have the dual of the third person, who of gods made those two. So, I don't know, I find these forms of the dual hard to get used to, but these is a good comparison of these two lines. Edespo henekathneton, ere di neton hoda, and tis tarspo etheron, eridesun kemakestai. Despo henekathneton, eridaneton hoda. Eridaneton is second person dual present, from eridino, to quarrel or to wrangle, and of course based or formed from the noun eris, eridos, strife being the goddess who more or less stands over this entire first book. And hoda is here deitic, like that, like this, in this fashion. Despo henekathneton, eridaineto hoda. Now, I've mentioned how the latter part of this book throws us into the world of the gods and the politics between the gods. And here we see Homer's view of this, that yes, the gods, though they have their human favorites, and they have the peoples that they favor or despise, nevertheless, there's not a sense among the gods that the mortals are actually so important that the gods themselves should actually quarrel with one another over them. So we'll see that this is a line that gets blurred, but it more or less is the fact that Homer's gods are kind of proto-Epicurean in that they exist in this happy bliss, and they may, well, for Epicurus, they're not concerned with the affairs of humans at all, but with Homer, there is some higher level of concern than that. But nevertheless, the relation between the gods themselves is by no means ought to be disrupted by the quarrels or the allegiances that particular gods might have for particular individuals or peoples. So, despoi henekathneton, eri dineton hoda. In the oise koloon launeton. So, koloos is an unseemly noise, a din, or a disturbance. And it derives from this word koiloios, masculine, meaning referring to a jackdaw, a certain type of bird, which you see a picture of the type of bird. And if anyone's been in the country and heard these types of birds when they get together and start making their noise, it's quite an unpleasant sound. And so it's a very nice phrase. So elau neton is second person dual present from elauno, very important verb in Homer. And I suggest you look at your Kunlif and read the whole entry on elauno. But here it means to carry on, to keep up. And so kaloi on elaunein actually can be translated to make a scene. You know, like someone makes a scene at a restaurant or something. In that oisi koloon elauneton, udete daitos est les esetai vedos, epita kere ona nike. So daitos, feminine, of course, is a meal or a feast. Est los, est le, eslon is fine, excellent, good. And vedos, neuter, is pleasure, derived from the adjective vedus, vedea, vedu, sweet or pleasant. So, ude te daitos est les esetai vedos, epeta kere ona nike. So, epe, of course, is our conjunction. Since ta kere ona nike uses kere on, kere onos, which in the neuter plural refers to what is bad rather than good, what is evil. And nika is our present of nikao, to prevail or rule. But, of course, in Greek, you can have a plural neuter subject with a singular finite verb. So, epe ta kere ona nikai. Me tri dego parape me kai aute per no euse. Now, parape me is to advise or recommend, and it takes a dative and infinitive. We see the dative as maitre, and we'll see the infinitive coming up. It will be perein in the following line. Kai aute per no euse. Our verb here is noeo, which means, especially in the participle, to recognize quickly what expediency or propriety demands. It can mean even intelligence or having good sense. So, kai aute per no euse can be translated even though you already know as much. Me tri dego parape me kai aute per no euse. Pa tri biloi epiwera perein de opra me aute ne ke e si pater. So, opra me plus the subjunctive, it's the final clause, and so look at Smythe 2193, and then A, we see that opra is used in Homer and lyric as a final clause as well, so that it's not the case that opra me alte again once more, pater, ne ke e se. So ne ke e se is our third singular subjunctive from ne ke o or ne ke o, which means to create a disturbance, to fight, to wrangle. Soon de min daita tarak se. So soon de min, here amin is an enclitic form of amin. So, and soon can be connected with taraxe, which completely, having the sense of completely, but tarasso in itself means to throw in disorder, to disturb, from tarak being the stem. So, patri pile epi we raperen de e, hopra me aute ne ke esi pater, sun de min di ta taraxe. E perga quel delesen, Olympios asteropetes, ex hedra on stupelixai, hogar polupertatos esten. So, asteropetes, this is the lightener, the doer of lightning, from asterope, lightning. And I've just put that wrong. It should be asteropetes, asteropetu, I believe. But you can check it out. That's Smythe 839A1. Then hedreon, genitive plural from hedre, which means one seat or chair. Stupelixai is aorist infinitive of stupelizdo, which means to drive away from a specific position with blows. So to drive off with blows. Pertatos is a superlative adjective, strongest or most powerful. So e per garketelese olympios asteropetes ex hedreon supelexai hogar polupertatos esten. So here we have an interesting rhetorical, or the grammar takes on some of the heatedness of the rhetoric here, because in this agar ketelese and then hogar polupertatos este, we see that the apodosis has actually been omitted, the apodosis to the A clause. So, as Goodwin and Smythe inform us, the apodosis is sometimes omitted when some such expression as "it is well" or "it will be done" can be supplied, or when some other apodosis is at once expressed by the context. Here, we must understand "he can do it" after the protasis. And the following gar refers to this suppressed apodosis. So, as Smythe puts it, the omission of the apodosis occurs in passionate speech for rhetorical effect. This is called aposiopesis, and you can look at that at Smythe 3015. And here we want to translate, "For if indeed the Olympian Lord of Lightning wishes to thrust us out from our habitations, thrust us he will, for he is by far the most powerful." So thrust us he will is what Smythe supplies as the suppressed and implicit apodosis to "if he wishes." Stupelixai, if he wishes to knock us out of our seats or out of our habitations. So we've seen in this that the august nature of Zeus has been highlighted from numerous different angles and manners, and that would be a nice short paper topic as well, how the majesty of Zeus gets constructed in this final portion of Book 1. So now he turns to his mom more particularly. Alasu ton wepe esen kathaptestai malakoisen. Auti kepeti alos olympios esetai heimin. So here, katha testai is the infinitive is sometimes used in the sense of the second person of the imperative, especially in Homer. In such cases, the subject is in the nominative. So here we have the use of the infinitive to express a imperative. We've seen that earlier in the book as well. But alasu ton wepesen kata pestai, that's to soothe, okay, malakoisen. And malakos is gentle, winning, conciliatory when applied to wepos, wepea, words or statements. Altika, forthwith, immediately at once. Altika pet hialos olympios esetai hemin. Hialos is gracious, benign, propitious. Just again, this root occurred with respect to Apollo once he had been placated by the Achaeans. So again, it's wonderful the way the themes of Homer get so subtly yet clearly expressed by the repetition of the same words that really rise to the level of general themes. Okay, so I'd like to take a fine look at this use of Allah here at the beginning. Allah su ton wepe esen, etc. Dynaston tells us at pages 13-14 regarding Allah. He says Allah can occur in commands and exhortations. So again, the katha pestai is the infinitive used as an imperative. So Bauline, Dynaston tells us, explains Allah here as combating the indecision or reluctance of persons. But Dynaston goes on to say he prefers Hartung, who says that it represents a break-off in the thought, or as Klotz more specifically and more accurately puts it, a transition from arguments for action to a statement of the action required. So this is the main bit here. The Allah turns from this need of something being done, which has been stated earlier, or the stuff about our meal being upset and our banquet being disturbed. Allah su, it switches from the arguments for action to a statement of the action itself that is required. So hence Allah, in this sense, usually occurs near the end of a speech as a clinching and final appeal, whereas at the opening of a speech, it introduces an objection in the form of a command. So you can see Sophocles' Electra 431 for an example of this. Nay, or as we say, oh, but do, come now, will often get the meaning of, but come now, soothe him with words. The usage is very rare in oratory, being probably too intimate in tone. But nevertheless, Dynaston, being the wonderful, diligent source that he is, does supply an example from Demosthenes, where Demosthenes is saying to the Athenian people, but give close heed, men of Athens, I beg you, in the name of Zeus and the gods. Alla pros eket o andres Athenai oi, pros dios kai di theon ton nun. Now, pros ekain ton nun is an idiom for paying attention, but we see the Allah having the same usage here. He uses this rather colloquial and intimate idiom in his appeal to the Athenians to really kind of focus, put on their thinking caps, focus their minds as he begins to make a new part of his speech. However that may be, this is a good example of the way Dynaston works and the illumination he brings to the subtlety of the Greek particles. So, alasu ton wepe kata pestai malakoisen. Toisen de paistos Plutotechnes agore uen. Me tripile epire raperon lucolenoi here. E de loigia vergata desetai, udeta necta. E despo henekathne ton, eredine ton hode. Indete oise kolo on elauneton. Ude te daitos ethles esetai vedos, epeta kereona nike. Me tridego parape me, kai alte per no use, pa tripiloi epive raperen dii, opra me alte, nike esi pa ter. Sun de min daita taraxe. E per getelesen Olympios asteropetes, ex hedre on stupelixai, ho garpolu petatos esten. Ala suton wepe esse kathaptestai malakoisen, altike petialos Olympios esetai hemin. Okay, so there we have it, the first little bit of Hephaestus' speech. He'll have more to say to his mom. This is a picture of the temple of Hephaestus that stands over the Agora in Athens. I believe that's where it is. I believe I was there, but I didn't have a picture of it for my trip. But this is, nevertheless, a wonderfully preserved temple of Hephaestus. Okay, so we're very near the end of Book 1. Keep working hard, and I'll see you again soon. Have a good day. Bye-bye.